It is the Eagles and the Packers this Friday night on 97.3 ESPN. It's time now for football at 4:30. Adam Caplan's here, pinch hitting, if you will, for Jeff Mosher today on a day where the Phillies lead 3-2, by the way. The Eagles made an interesting designation today. And let's bring Adam Caplan. You were on yesterday when the injury report came out.
Yeah.
And Devin White was listed as limited. Today, he is out, and it has started a lot of speculation about what could be next for him, Adam. So out for White, what does it mean for this defense?
All right, let me break this down because there's a lot of confusion. People are saying a lot of stuff. Some of it's not true. So let me explain something. First of all, Mike, we've talked since I've been doing Football at 4 here that every once in a while we have what's called a pop-up injury that's not known. This is a pop-up injury. He did not end preseason with this ankle injury. Number one, this is a new injury. It's legit. People are thinking there's conspiracy because he didn't have a good training camp, very inconsistent, that, they're making this up so he doesn't have to play. Come on, folks. They owe him. So let me go over his contract, Mike. Being that he's a vested veteran, his $2.25 million base salary became fully guaranteed this week. Plus, they owe him the signing bonus of over $2.7. So, Mike, they owe him just under $5 million this season if he never plays a game. Of course, they want him to play. It's just funny. People think there's some kind of conspiracy because this injury came out of the blue. Well, it apparently happened in practice.
Yeah.
So now let me also explain this part. This is important because the league cracks down on this stuff. So for many years, going back to the mid-2000s, players let's say you have a Sunday game, right? And a player did not travel with the team, but they never downgraded them. They left the players questionable. The league said enough of this. Like, if a guy's not traveling, he's obviously not playing. You have to downgrade the guy out. Well, the final statuses on the players are not due today. They're due tomorrow. But because the Eagles traveled today, Devin White had to be listed as out. That is why they did it. I think, again, there's some confusion. Anytime a player is listed on the injury report and he does not travel, he's out no matter what he's listed on Friday. He cannot play. That's a league rule. The league started cracking down on it. Even the Patriots, by the way, are great at doing that. They're big on the Saturday downgrade. If a guy's not traveling, they don't travel players, and those guys are not playing. So that's the league rule. This may happen again when the Eagles have to travel. If a player is listed on the injury report and he does not travel, he cannot play. Mm-hmm. There was exceptions with COVID, but we're not dealing with that right now. So again, if the guy's on the injury report with an injury and he's not traveling, he cannot play.
You look at Devin White, he's out for the game, not playing. Nakobe Dean, Zach Bond will presumably be the starters, but will White jump right back into the lineup, do you think, that he is the starter, or do you think that these two guys, Dean and Bond, will be the starters moving forward?
All right, a couple things there. First of all, we have no idea with this White injury, the severity of it, because it came out of nowhere. So I don't know what it is yet. But here's what I do know, Mike. It was bad enough that he couldn't play. Now, I get it. They're on a short week, so they're 2 days short. They're not playing on a Sunday. They're playing on a Friday. So we don't know yet. And we also don't know, did they not want him on? We don't know anything about the turf that they have there. Or whatever. I haven't even looked. I don't know if it's natural grass or not.
By the way, there was something about this. They are using the same surface that Lambeau and Lincoln Financial Field use, and Lambeau and Lincoln Financial Field are the only two venues that use that type of grass. They both use the same grass that's going to be at Corinthians.
Okay, so that's good. That's good. So, again, Mike, we don't know what their plan is. Now, here's what's interesting. I don't know if you noticed, and I usually dismiss their depth charts. You and I have talked about this. I kind of laugh when you bring them up. To the Eagles' credit, because this is the way it closed, I think you kind of you mentioned this in passing. At the Mike linebacker spot, they listed White first and Dean second, but they listed or.
Yep.
Which is interesting. That they don't do that. That I found it very interesting. And again, but they did list White. See, here's what happened, Mike. Number one, and the reporters who are at practice know this, and I was there a lot. White had the most snaps of any inside backer. They have two inside backers. They will start two inside backers. They're a typical odd man front. You have two overhangs, three down, and two inside backers, right? One's a weak side, one's a middle. That's the way they all are. So the question is, if this is not a serious injury, if it's only day-to-day or he's back in a week or two, what do? Well, they got to see him in practice. Here's another thing which I've tried to explain to people. Because this is a new staff, Mike, we don't know. Are they going to specialize these linebackers? None of them cover well, by the way. None of them are good in coverage. Are they going to have Dean, who's the best run defender they have? Is he going to be the rundown guy? When they're in passing situations, who are going to be the two backers? And Dime, who's going to be the one linebacker? We don't know that, Mike. So people want answers. And by the way, I'm sure you read or at least heard what Vic Fangio said. He said ideally they like to have the settle with their backers, but they're still going through it.
Yeah, I know this linebacking stuff. And when they got White, the anticipation from a lot of the fans was, wow, they got Devin White. He was a all-pro. And
5 years ago.
Right, exactly. 2020 had that really big season, 140 tackles, 9 sacks, helped them win a Super Bowl. He's not the same player that he was in Tampa, regardless if he's the guy here or not, correct?
Oh, Mike, he's, first of all, I could talk about this because we already put this out on Patreon. I mean, I could just give you a really good nugget. So Jeff and I are pretty friendly with a current NFL defensive coach was part of his job for free agency was to grade the linebackers. We're talking about non-pass rushers, on-the-ball linebackers. Off-the-ball linebackers, Mike. And this player, Devin White, was given a DNS, which means do not sign. That means his tape was bad. So I can't get into the Eagles' heads. The contract. The only reason why I thought, Mike, to start training camp, and I'll be honest with you, I thought he'd start, and he may. We don't. Again, we're not sure. We'll see what happens. We'll see what his role is when he's back. Is that his contract? He's their highest-paid linebacker by far. By the way, he is upside to make $7.2 million with incentives. I just was like, wow, they really think this much of this linebacker. No one else does. But listen, it only matters what the Eagles think. Mm-hmm. And contracts with the Eagles, and particularly Howie Roseman, their general manager, mean a lot. Now, the fact that the Eagles listed 2 co-starters for that Mike linebacker job tells you that Devin White is no lock to play a lot when he comes back, when he's ready to go. Yeah. That the decision was not made. We'll see. By the way, he had a very inconsistent camp, is my understanding. But as I've been telling you now for, I don't know, I guess I started this about a week after Dean had that bad practice at the Link. Right after he started taking off, then another week, I remember I came back from my camp tour. I said, Mike, I have no idea why Dean's not starting. I don't understand it. And you know that because I kept saying it.
Well, and I guess the question would be,
puzzled.
It would be Dean would be starting over White. If White comes back, he would replace Dean, not Bond, correct?
Correct, yeah, because I did not see White play at the weak side spot. But here's a nugget for you, Mike. And if every team that I spoke with saw Devin White as a weak side linebacker, not a Mike. So I don't know what I can't get. I wish the reporters would ask why they thought White could play the weak side. The Mike spot. He's a weak side linebacker. Yeah. He plays like that. He's not a instinctive linebacker like Nakobe Dean. By the way, Nakobe Dean, I did see him play a little bit of that other spot, Bond spot, very little, by the way. I did note it at one of the practices that they were mixing and matching, but he mostly lined up at the Mike spot. So on your question to answer that, no, I don't see it. In fact, we don't know yet where Van Sermon line up a lot at the Mike spot. Burks, by the way, we don't know where he's going to line up yet. That's the guy to keep an eye on as we go forward with this musical chairs.
Yeah, well, that was going to be a follow-up, and you led me right into it, Adam Caplan, Football at 4 from the Inside the Birds podcast. It's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So if White's out, Burks dresses then Friday night, and is he the third guy, or is that Trotter?
See, Trotter's I would think Burks. I would think Burks with his experience, he is healthy now. Van Sermon should dress because he's a supreme special teams player. He's the fastest linebacker. Right now, we're expecting Dean and Bond, obviously. We're expecting Van Sermon to play on specials.
Right.
The question is, we don't know yet what they think of Trotter. We know that he's more of a Mike linebacker, though they list him as a weak. We definitely saw him practice at the weak spot. He's another really instinctive, smart linebacker. But, Mike, the whole point of discussing this as much as we do, we rarely talk about their inside backer job this much. There's so much uncertainty And I look forward to getting the All-22 also. I should have that. I'll take a look at that probably Sunday. I want to log at how many snaps each guy played, not only how many snaps, which we'll know anyway, what situationally, how did they play? How were they used? Because it was really hard to tell in training camp, Mike, that up till their last couple of days, they still did not define who the passing down backs were, the run down backs, the rundowns. Goal line, yes, to a degree. But Burks, who you mentioned, he throws a wrench into it. By the way, he's their tallest linebacker. He's actually him and Burks, and he's actually taller than Bond. Bond's 6'2.5". Burks is 6'3", 1/10 of an inch.
We're talking with Adam, and of course, one of the big things as we move on to some offensive things real fast. Sure. A lot of talk about Hurts and what he said, and then Jason Kelsey said what Hurts said was kind of being misrepresented, but he did address that they did have issues against the blitz last season. Are you confident that they have fixed those issues?
Mike, here's the thing, though. I would tell you that it was more on Jalen than their coaches. Moshe and I beat up their coaching staff pretty badly. Scheme, bad, lack of adjustments. We got a lot of that from the teams the Eagles they'd face. They just very critical of the scheme, very vanilla. And you heard what Sirianni said. He called it stale, and he's right. I think, Mike, overall with Jalen, he just didn't see it well. Everyone who worked for us, Greg Cosell, others said the same thing. He didn't see the blitz well. That's on him. And we talked about the nonsense of there was no hot routes, which is made up. Of course there's hot routes. We confirmed that their hot route was China. That's a short area route, an angle route. He just didn't see it. Nobody could get into a quarterback's head, Mike. I've asked coaches. We talked to John DiFilippo. John works as a contributor to Inside the Birds. John explained what those conversations are like when they watch tape. They don't try to overwhelm them on the sideline when they come off the field. They do this in the classroom. But to think that they're not hot routes, I don't know what people are looking at. That's not true.
Well, that was obviously one of the big offensive things there. A lot of talk about Saquon Barkley. The national media comparing him to Christian McCaffrey and saying that the all Eagles offense needs to run through Saquon Barkley. Will this be a Saquon Barkley-centric offense Friday night and this season?
Great question, Mike. Well, his contract would tell you at $12.5 million per season. Mike, $27 million is really what he's guaranteed to get. It's real simple. If it doesn't go through him, then where's it going to go? Because yes, for decades we always would talk about how the Eagles are a passing team. That's what Joe Banner wanted. That's what Jeffrey Lurie wanted. They're forward thinking, but when you're paying a running back that much as we don't believe in balance, we think that's overrated. You got to run the football. You got to justify the contract. So, Mike, to answer your question, to move this forward. Yeah, in fact, here's another thing on that. Yes, I believe it'll somewhat go through it. Yes, they're going to throw a lot too. But how much is Hurts going to run anymore? Are they going to take out of his hands more to run? Are they going to design as much? That's the next question, Mike. So actually a major question. Will Hurts run the ball as much as he has in years past? That
will be something we're all keeping an eye on, the evolution of Jalen Hurts. It all starts Friday night, and you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Adam Caplan is over at InsideTheBirds.com, and, of course, the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms. Don't forget their Patreon page and their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds Friday night right here on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Adam, appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, by the way, on Patreon tonight, we've got a chat at 8 p.m. See ya.
All right, there he goes. That's Adam Caplan here on the Sports Bash, as he said, 8 p.m. tonight on the Patreon channel. There are Patreon stuff if you're a Patreon subscriber. I know a couple listeners of ours who are Patreon subscribers and love some of the insight and analysis they bring inside the Birds.